There I was on day 3 of my honeymoon. My wife and I had gone down to go to dinner at an all-adult, all-inclusive resort. I was feeling like the king of the world. We're all dressed up, all ready to go, and we're standing in line when the lady in front of us turns around and says, "Are you two actually married?" To which I thought, don't you see the ring? Like, of course we're married. Can't you see the wedding glow still all over us? And at that time, she turns around and she starts laughing and she says, "I am so sorry. It's just that I thought you were 12 years old." And in that moment, our honeymoon, the high of the wedding, all came crashing down into that very moment in time where we realized that life happens even on your honeymoon. Right after that, she looks at us and she goes, "Well, I hope that you can actually make it." In that moment, we just realized that it doesn't matter, even if you're on your honeymoon, life happens, feelings come about. It's not the way that it looked like it would happen in the movies. So sometimes in our lives, we have to come to grips with the reality that the honeymoon phase may or may not last forever for you. Maybe for you, if you're watching, you've been married for just a short period of time. You're literally still on your honeymoon phase. And you're asking yourself the question, can this last forever? I've seen the people go before me, my family and my parents or people around me, and their marriage didn't work so great. And you begin to wonder and ask yourself the question, can our love stay alive, even though the people who have gone before me haven't been able to do it very successfully? Or maybe for you, you're watching this and maybe you remember the days of your honeymoon. You remember the love and the joy and the excitement and the newness and all that went into your wedding day. And you're beginning to wonder as life has gone on and life has hit you in the face and the challenges of financial setbacks or conflicts in your marriage or problems with your kids, if any of that is ever going to stop so that you can get back to the heartbeat of where it all began for you and your true love. So as we come and talk about this today, I want to encourage you, no matter who you are or where you're at, the things you've experienced in your marriage, I want you to know that the honeymoon phase does not have to simply be a feeling. In fact, actually, we read about in lots of different books and counseling advice on marriage, and we even see it in the Bible, that when we're willing to make a commitment to one another, that actually our marriage can last. With God on our side and working in our marriage, we have a 100% chance of success. There are some things we have to do in order to keep that honeymoon phase and season alive in our marriage. The first one is this: we have to set the right expectations in our marriage. We have to set the right expectations. Usually when you start dating, it's a lot of fun and it's very exciting. You remember your first date probably. You remember some of the conversations you had earlier on in your marriage. You know, the times in the beginning seem easy and fun. The honeymoon is fun and more fun. But then what happens is this: we begin to equate this idea that true love is always fun and is always easy. And it makes it difficult when we come face to face with the realities of life. And we begin to equate true love with being fun. And so when our marriage becomes hard work, it makes us think that maybe we're doing something wrong. Maybe something's not working for me. Maybe we're just not cut out for this. So we have to go back and reset and reestablish some expectations in our life. The idea is this, that we've sometimes unconsciously set the expectation that love is easy. But I want to tell you something right now that I've experienced in my marriage, and I believe you can experience in your own, and that is this freeing thought, this freeing expectation, a clarifying of expectations that says this: marriage is hard work. That even the best marriages, the ones that you see and aspire to be like, behind the scenes is a lot of hard work. But here's what we know about hard work. Hard work always pays off. Every spring, my wife and I, we go out and we buy way too much money in flowers. We spend way too much money on flowers. We buy them, we bring them back to the house. We want to make it look all nice. And for the first few months, you know, we're still excited about it. We're watering them every day. I even remember this year, we caught ourselves, my wife and I had both been watering the flowers. We were that excited. We loved the way it made our house look. We were willing to put in the work to make it happen. But here's the thing, we live in Texas, right? This Texas August heat, 110-degree days, and we're thinking, man, our flowers are looking bad. They're looking droopy. And the same energy and the same excitement that we had in the beginning no longer exists. I'm not excited to wake up 10 extra minutes to make sure I have time to water them before I go to work. You see, the same thing has happened sometimes in our marriage. It starts exciting, but then it gets tough and it gets difficult. You see, we used to enjoy doing some things together, but now that it's a challenge, there are more conflict and there's more drama within the marriage. Sometimes it's more difficult to water it. But I believe that if we set the right expectations in our marriage, it can actually help us. It can get us to a place where we can begin to see and feel and experience the joy of the honeymoon phase in our life again. So there are some areas of our life that sometimes we have to clarify expectations. Maybe that's some expectations for your family. I would challenge you, sit down with your spouse and say, what kind of expectations do we have for our family? For how much time we spend together, for the kinds of things that we do, for the kinds of things that are acceptable within our house, or the kinds of things that we won't tolerate. Set some expectations and boundaries on how you're going to handle conflict within your marriage. How are we going to fight? What are we going to do when things get tough and we don't know what to do? And when you sit down with your spouse and you begin to have some clarifying of expectations, it sets you up for success because you can prepare for the things that you expect. Sit down with your spouse and have some expectation talks around sexual intimacy. I know, guys, that maybe you got into your marriage and thought, yeah, we're going to have sex every day. And you wake up with this reality of that's not really how it works. Because life, circumstances, kids, finances, all kinds of things begin to creep into your marriage. All the more reason for us to set the right expectations in those areas of our life because it will strengthen us and it will begin to restore some of the joy of our honeymoon phase. When I first got married, first couple of years of our marriage, people would say, how's your beautiful wife? How are you all doing? And I'd be like, oh, things are going great. I love her. We're just so in love. Life is great. And inevitably, they would look at me and give me some version or some rendition of, oh yeah, you're just a young guy and you're just still in the honeymoon phase. That was their way of saying, don't worry, it's about to get worse. Like, I see where you're at now, but I just want you to know it's going to get worse. And we had some people come along, and for some reason, a lot of people would throw out the suggestion that watch out for year 7. Watch out for year 7 because it's going to get you. So the first 7 years of our marriage, we kept waiting for the shoe to drop. Is the honeymoon phase going to end? And year 7 came along, year 8, and it wasn't over. We made it alive, and we're still married. And I had this thought. I realized, we're not perfect. Our marriage has its challenges. We go through our ups and our downs. But the reason we can still walk in the joy of our honeymoon season of life is because we've realized something very valuable to our marriage. And that is that it's not a feeling, it's a commitment. We've made a commitment to one another. And here's what happens. We have to set the right expectations, but we also have to set the right filters in our life. On your phone, you can take a picture. You can take a selfie. And instantly, you can have a filter applied over your face. So if you don't like how shiny your bald head is, you can change the filter and make it look just the way you want. If you weren't wearing makeup that day, ladies, you can have a filter and it makes you look like you spent hours and you're all ready to go. You see, in our life, we have all these filters that we apply over everything. But what happens in marriage is this. We find that the longer we're married, or the more challenges or life we experience in our marriage, the more those filters begin to come off. And as those filters come off, we start seeing the other person for who they really are. So I think oftentimes when people say the honeymoon phase is over, what they're saying is this: the filter or the veil has lifted. He used to be really cute, but now he never takes a shower. He used to be really kind to everybody, but now all I can think about is the fact that every time behind closed doors, he gets so angry. We find these situations in our life as the filters become to come off, we realize something, that the person we married has issues. The challenge in life is often this. It's not whether or not the person you're married to has issues. It's what kind of filter are you going to place over the issues that they have? So when you were first dating, there was lots of things that you couldn't see that now, early into marriage, you're starting to see and wondering, where was this when we were dating? But I want to challenge you. Maybe it's not on the other person. What I've realized in my own life is that there are some filters that I have placed. And what happens is as they begin to go away, I start to see the baggage in my own life and in the life of my spouse. You see, what happens is this. We all have our own baggage. I remember the first time my wife and I went on a 2-day weekend getaway. And I thought, how in the world could she pack so much baggage to go for 2 days to our parents' house? Quite literally, sometimes in life, we have a lot of baggage within our marriage or in our own life. And one of the things that we have to learn to realize is this, that as we experience the baggage and the setbacks, what kind of filter are you going to apply to your spouse? For example, sometimes when we're going through some issues or difficult times, we need to apply the filter of grace over our spouse. The filter of grace that says, I don't expect you to be perfect. I don't expect you to get it right every single time. There's a filter that applies to any of the circumstances or situations that you may be going through. Maybe for you in this season, it's the filter of forgiveness. Filter of forgiveness that says, I'm willing to work with you until we get better. I'm willing to make things right for the sake of our commitment in marriage. Maybe it's the filter of compassion. Filter of compassion says, I'm committed to helping you. The filter of commitment that says, we're in this together. Or maybe it's the filter of growth that says, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help leaving you better than the way that I found you. We have to set the right expectations, but we also have to set the right filters, the lens through which we look at our marriage and our life. And the final thing is this. If you want to help rekindle the joy that you experienced on your honeymoon, to keep your love alive, we have to set the right priorities in our marriage. My wife and I, every year for about the last 8 years, with a few exceptions, have every year taken a weekend away to have our own marriage retreat. It's not a marriage retreat with pastors or leaders that are speaking into. It's a time where we get away together, just the two of us, to talk about our marriage and take personal inventory. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. One year we went camping for a week. One year we had somebody who had a place and we went and stayed at their house instead of staying in our own house. And here's what we were doing. We're saying, I'm making the commitment and the priority that our marriage matters most. And because it does, we're going to invest in it. Our marriage takes work. The best marriages take work. So we have to set priorities in our life. How much time are we going to spend on our phones in the evening when we get home from work? We have to set our priorities. How much time are we going to spend allowing our kids to go to every activity in the books? Or how are we going to take and refine some of the boundaries of our family that say we're going to spend more time together? We set the priorities in our life. You know, one of the priorities that I've learned that sometimes I can take for granted is this. I don't give my wife enough time. I don't pursue her the way that I did in the beginning. Think about the first time you went on a date. Think about how easy it was to talk. Think about the first time you moved into the very first place you ever lived in. The excitement, the joy. I want to challenge you, encourage you. If you've been married for 2 days or 50 years, I truly believe that God can help you restore the joy of the honeymoon phase in your life, that the love can still be kept alive. And it starts with the priority of pursuing your spouse. There's a verse in the Bible, I want to share it with you. Hosea in the Bible. It's a story of a man who was married to a woman who was unfaithful. A woman who, the Bible says, chases after other lovers. And here's what it says in Hosea chapter 2, verse 14. Hosea says of his wife, "Therefore, behold, I will allure her, and I'll bring her into the wilderness, and I will speak tenderly to her. And there I will give her her vineyards and make the valley of trouble a door of hope. And there she shall answer as in the days of her youth, as at the time when she came up out of the land of Egypt. I love that story. Gomer, Hosea's wife, is a prostitute. And actually, this is speaking of a marriage, but it's actually more reflective of God's relationship with his people. And he says, even in the times when your priorities got off, even when you found yourself needing a new spark in your marriage, here's what you can do. The Lord says that he reaches out, he allures, he pursues, and he restores the joy of the youth. And I just want to challenge you, no matter who you are, where you've been, what your relationship status looks like in this very moment, I want you to know that God, with your faithful commitment to your marriage, can help restore the things that have been lost. And maybe for you, it starts with a relationship with Jesus. Maybe for you, the relationship with Jesus has gotten distant. And as that relationship has gotten distant, your marriage has gotten more and more challenging. I want you to know that verse is true for you in your life. And that is this: the Lord will allure you. He will pursue you. He will draw you into the wilderness. He will speak tenderly to you. If you're in the middle of the valley of trouble, he will be a door of hope in your life. And if he'll be that for you, I promise he can be that for your marriage. The honeymoon phase doesn't have to just be a feeling. It's a commitment, and it can last for a lifetime. God bless.